everybody. Welcome back to Project Eunoia. I am really happy and excited to be here today with you guys, and no matter if you're just ending your day or starting it, I hope it's also going really well or ending really good. So let's get to it. So today we're just going to talk about anger. Anger is a really strong word when we think about it. And when I first started Project Eunoia, I thought about the main things that could really feed our ego. And when we talked about fear, there's a lot of emotion that gets involved and gets in the way of your growth and your personal life. So when I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, fear is one thing, but there's another emotion that for some reason I really relate to, and that emotion is anger. So when we talk about anger, everyone experiences it from time to time. Not everyone is anger free or angry free. But if someone is not able to really control their anger, it might cause a lot of problems in their personal life and maybe social life, work life, anything like that. It really affects the quality of your life in general. So the reason why I relate to this so much is because anger is really one thing that has been a part of me since I was growing up. I never really saw myself as someone who was super angry all the time. I always said that I was the nicest person ever. I think everyone kind of thinks that when they're young, that they're the nicest person ever. But to me, that's what I thought. And I think because of that, when I kind of grew up, I started realizing that maybe it's not good to be too nice. And throughout my whole life, I think I learned that the hard way. When you're too nice, you get taken advantage of. But when you're not nice, people see you as unapproachable and they don't want to get to know you, and they just think you have issues. And so let me tell you guys, I've lived both of those lives. So when I was younger, when I was growing up, as I said, I was super nice to everybody. I never talked down to anybody. I think I just allowed people to talk to me any way they wanted. And I was just super afraid of standing up for myself. You know, when you're in school, you just want to fit in. And the thing is, when you do that, you tend to allow others to speak to you in a certain way. So that was me when I was in school. I was too nice. I smiled a lot. I think I do remember a friend of mine who's really close to me till this day. He asked me, "Why do you smile so much?" And I think till that day, I'm like, is there a problem with smiling so much? I thought life was meant to be happy. You know, I was happy always. I always thought I had so many friends. That naiveness of mine that kept coming back to me, in which I never really realized that I had it all. Me being naive, I thought I knew my surroundings and I thought that I knew everything, right? As everyone thinks. Because I thought I was so nice and that everyone was my friend. Whatever they said to me, it just didn't really resonate to me in a bad way. So when that friend of mine, or back then we weren't really friends, he was super popular. And you know, when you're not as popular and you see people coming up to you and be like, "Why do you smile so much?" What do you say to that Like, I don't know what to say to that. I don't even think I replied. Maybe one day I'll find out. But, you know, I never realized that people saw me or looked at me in a way that she smiles way too much. So I'm like, there's obviously something wrong in being um, all smiley every day. So since that time, I kind of tried to smile less often. And as I grew up, I started noticing that with me not smiling often, I did become very sad and depressed. And no, I'm not going to blame that person for asking me that question. You know, a lot of million scenarios happened before that day, and you know, a lot of things build you up to who you are today. So obviously that question isn't the only thing that really resonated to me and made me really look back at myself and be like, oh, why am I smiling so much? Why am I doing all these things for people? No, that was just the one thing, you guys. Like, me being too nice, I kind of discovered that later on. So there's actually a story that I don't really tell often, but I tell to people who are too nice because I feel like there's some sort of energy where people just come up to you and take advantage of you completely, you know? And when you're too nice, you don't realize. Unless someone comes up to you and really questions who you are as a person. And I think I was questioned a lot when I was young. I think people questioned me as a person because I was too nice. Maybe she's just pretending to be someone who she's not. I was actually that naive to think I was too nice. And when you guys think back to the previous episodes, I mentioned that I literally thought I had every friend on earth. And who knows, the things that people say behind your back can be said. And to be honest, I know I'm not the most liked person on earth, and I don't think everybody is. And there's going to be people that are not going to like you. And so when we go back to the beginning of this episode, I mentioned that we were going to talk about anger. So anger comes from a lot of things. It's kind of like it's your body's really important, like a flight, what do you say it? What's that called? Fight, flight, or freeze system that kind of helps us protect us from any threats or any dangers that we might encounter in our lives. That's your body's natural way of expressing emotion, is anger. So anger is not a bad thing, and it's just high levels of unresolved anger is what might have a really negative impact on you in the future and on your health. So when I talk about anger as being our fight, flight, or freeze, you know, go to for our body, I think when we're younger and we're scared of behaving in certain ways because we want to fit in, and that's when fear comes through and takes control, and we're so scared of being who we are. That's our fight, flight, or freeze. You know, fear is anger's little sibling, I must say. So when we talked about fear in the last episode, we mentioned that it has a lot of effects on your health. Anger does too. Emotions have so much to do with your health in general. But when we were talking about fear, it led to a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And we know depression tends to inflict anger a lot of the times because you're very short-tempered. You you have less things that you want to do in a day that natural people would love to do. And that's like going outside, literally leaving your house, doing anything that's that could result in so many emotions. And that's where anger kind of comes in. It comes in from a lot of unhealed emotions that come through us. So with fear, there's 4 different types, and they don't make it easy for you. I'm gonna just say that. So when you're experiencing anger, you're gonna be experiencing some type, and as long as you understand what kind you're going through, I think this might really help you understand and or teach yourself how to grow past that kind. So with the 4 types, there's assertive anger, aggressive anger, passive aggressive anger, and suppressive anger. And a lot of them are kind of self-explanatory, but I'll just kind of explain a little bit because I think that not all of us might know, and me definitely, I recently learned about this because of all the stuff that I have to research for this podcast. So, and as I said before, it's not only a journey for you, but a journey for me. So us learning together is what it's all about. So let's do this. So the first one we'll kind of talk about is assertive anger. And with assertive anger, it's really the healthiest way to deal with anger, surprisingly. And if you're more of the type to be more assertive when you're angry, that's the best way to deal with things. It is being more controlled, more confident in what you're talking about. You're really listening and you're really dealing with the situation. So with assertive anger, it can really help the relationships around you grow, because that's when you'll really know what it means when you think before speaking, and how open you are in the other side's story. It's really about being patient, not really raising your voice. It's all about communication. So with assertive anger, that's the fight, flight, or freeze mode that we want to be in, right? So that's the one that is the hardest to get to. But with the other ones, let's say aggressive anger, that's kind of like open aggression. There's a tendency to lash out in rage. You're being physical, you're being verbally abusive, let's just say. And oftentimes you can hurt yourself or other people in this type of thing, because it's really everything with this one. It's bullying, it's shouting, like blackmailing, literally everything. Sarcasm is not always a great thing, you guys. So that's one of the things that we have to learn, that being sarcastic may also hurt other people, and that can show as open aggression. And we have to really control what we say sometimes. So there's a lot with open aggression and being aggressive, but there's another one, passive aggression. So that's being, you're mad but you're not mad sort of thing. That's the one we all hate. That's the one where you don't like confrontation. You're sulking, you're pretending everything is fine, and when someone comes and talks to you, sometimes you either lash out, or sometimes you just hold it back until you lash out later. Passive aggression, that's the one we really don't like, but it's also better than open aggression, and that's learning how to think before you speak. So I think open aggression, if you're really learning how to stop that anger, it's maybe it goes from being openly aggressive to a little passive aggressive and hopefully it could lead you to an assertive anger that you can naturally deal with on a daily basis. Because remember, you're important, your life counts, and everything you say and do makes a difference in this world. So when you're angry and you say mean things to people, it could really hurt a person, and you really never know what that person is going through on a daily basis, whether it's someone you're really close to or it's someone that you've just met, right? You don't know what anyone's going through, and you just have to make your life count, make their life count, and work with that situation that you have to deal with, right? Because if not, that's going to lead us to suppressive anger. So that's the last one I kind of wanted to talk about, because suppressive anger is not being passive aggressive, it's not being open aggressive. Suppressive is literally you're suppressing everything. You know, you're not letting anything out. Live in a world where it's butterflies and rainbows, and then you open the door and it's hell, you know? And the thing is, with suppressive anger, that could lead to a lot of health issues, and it could really be detrimental to you. It could lead to anything. It could lead to suicide, and that's what we really have to talk about. Anger and aggression are two completely different things. So now that we talked about anger and I put in aggressive, that word aggressive in there, y'all are gonna think anger and aggression are the same exact thing. You're literally smiling constantly, but they're not. They're completely different things, because being aggressive, it's a physical being, and being angry, it's a mental being that you have. Let's start with this. So how do we start being angry, or how do we experience anger, first of all? So a lot of people might experience anger, just normal things like being attacked. Oh my gosh, that's not normal. But the things that are obvious, like being attacked, threatened, disrespected in any way, invalidated, treated poorly, really frustrated, deceived, like it could be anything. And then a lot of the things that could, or the circumstances that could trigger the feelings that might lead us to that is like problems with a specific person, like personal problems, literally people. Oh my gosh, so let me tell you guys something, because oh man, this is gonna be a perfect example. My roommate, Ella, you guys have met her. She showed me a movie, and I'm obsessed with thrillers and scary movies, and literally she turned this movie on, and the whole time I was just on my seat like, what the hell is this? And it was legit. If you guys haven't watched it, it's called Unhinged. It's about this dude that literally murdered people in the morning, and he's just like on the road, and there's this mom that is trying to get her son to school, and she beeps her horn at him because he's not moving, and he legit goes after her and her family. That is like the whole movie. It just drove me crazy. At the end, I'm like, I am never beeping my horn at somebody, and if I need to, I'm just gonna be like, beep beep. That's terrifying. You guys need to watch that. So that's a perfect example of a trigger that might lead to anger. So it can also have a lot to do with like traumatic events, physical, psychological pain, any uncomfortable situation. Anger can play any role it wants. So when people are angry, you'll kind of notice that sometimes they're always kind of yelling or acting in an abusive manner. They're pacing, they're sarcastic all the time, no sense of humor whatsoever, and a lot of substance abuse. So, and a lot of the time when we don't know how to control our anger, that's when we really take like these drugs, or we drink a lot of alcohol to get rid of those feelings. But in reality, it just pushes those feelings back inside of us, and one day it just comes out on somebody who might be like super important to you, might be someone you've just met, and that person you could have just met, or that person who's super important to you, they could be going through a lot of mental health issues that could make them feel even worse about themselves and maybe lead them to become suicidal. So a lot of the times, anger is really associated with so many mental health conditions. You'll see it in, as we said, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder. There's borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia. There's literally narcissistic personality disorder, and like a lot of things like obsessive compulsive disorder. There's so much that could come in the way of your health and affect you in your day-to-day basis. So the thing is, I've always been the type of person that, because I was so nice, everything just kind of stayed within me. And when I did get angry, I would just burst out. And I was never an angry person, in my opinion. I don't think I am an angry person. I think I'm one of the nicest people you might meet. But the thing is, I can stand up for myself. And that's when a lot of people take that as aggression. So let me tell you guys something. With my job, I've worked in sales for, I'm going to say like 7 to 8 years. And the amount of customers that I've met on a daily basis, it really, I'd say 7 out of 10 of those customers will literally treat you like you're shit, you know? And if you've never worked in retail, oh man, you have another thing coming. Like, anyone who's in sales are targets for bullies in any type of way. When we think about bullies, we usually tend to think about, 10, 16-year-olds who just are assholes. What a lot of people don't think about is the biggest bullies are adults. People our age, people in their 40s, people in their 50s, 60s, literally every age you are, you're a piece of shit. But it's really what you're going to do about it that makes you not a piece of shit. So when you go in the mall and you're angry, and let's say I'm going to give you guys like a little scenario of one of the things, or yeah, one of the things that we usually experience at my work. And usually with my work, there's a lot of billing issues. And when customers don't pay their bill, it's your fault. You know, it's your fault that they don't have money. It's your fault that they couldn't pay on time. It's your fault they broke their phone. I just gave you guys away where I was working. It's your fault for even breathing, you know? It could be anything. You're to blame for all their mistakes. And there's no going around that, you know? And the thing with me, when I first worked in sales, I always stood up for myself no matter what. And the thing I always believed in was that the company that you're working for should always back you up no matter what, even if the customer is wrong. You know, when the customer is right, it's obvious that they're right, and you're not going to be the dick or the asshole that's going to just make it worse, you know, unless you're really that type of person. But when the customer is wrong, and usually the customer is wrong most of the time, and I'm going to say this because I'm also a customer, and if y'all don't think about that, all of you are customers in a way, and we're not always right, you know? We're not right about everything. We're literally going for guidance to that place because we don't work there and they know what to do. Yet we have the audacity to talk down to them and tell them, this is your fault. You're going to fix it. And yeah, I don't care. You're just, fuck you. That's literally what I deal with on a daily basis. And I know literally all my coworkers deal with the same exact thing, but it's how we're going to take that into consideration and be those proper customers that we want in our lives, right? And how to do that is to kind of recognize the warning signs of your body, because the thing is, people see you before you see yourself. And when you have, let's say, resting bitch face and they find you looking all angry, at this point you have no control how they're going to act, right? So they could literally be like, oh my gosh, this person looks like a bitch, you know? I don't want to deal with this person. Like, they can go kiss my ass if they wanted to. That's literally what a person could think in their head. You know, they're not going to say it out loud, obviously, but we're all human and we all think the same thing. And when you go up to a customer service agent who is being a little assholey, then you're going to be an asshole back. And so when we get asshole customers, we have to recognize, is it because of something I did? And if it's not, then I have to pause before I react. Because a lot of the time, and I learned this the hard way, is that when someone was angry at me, I would lash out. You know, I'd be like, who are you to say this to me or treat me this way? You know, I'm not going to say I still don't do that to this day. I don't think it's bad to stand up for yourself at all. I think it's like the number one thing you need to have as a human being is self-respect. And if you can't stand up for yourself, there's so many difficult barriers and boundaries that you're never going to get past. And it's how you're going to really stand up for yourself is what matters, right? So when someone is coming to you from anger, you're going to kind of, before you react to the situation, you pause and you kind of, I usually say, buy the person some time to kind of breathe. And I usually just be as nice as I can be and make them feel as bad as they can feel, to the point where they can't help but to smile back at you and be like, you know what? I'm just going to relax, release the tension in my body, unclench my jaw, relax your shoulders, do anything to let go of that tension. And I'm saying this for both parties, basically, for when the first person, or honestly, either or, whoever is feeling that emotion just coming through them in a negative way, you just need to relax. Not everybody wants to be yelled at. Not everybody is actually going through an amazing day just because they're smiling constantly. If y'all remember what I said before, just because I smiled a lot in school doesn't mean I was the best person out there, And throughout my life right now is what I'm trying to learn is to control that anger. And I have taken it out on people who are closest to me. I can say that. And especially my friends and especially my family. And it's the type of thing that you have to realize is, as long as you understand where you're coming from and understand where they're coming from, and you really get to know the situation from both sides, and you think before you react, and you listen to what they're saying, because during a heated conversation, there's usually no time to stop. We're kind of going at each other constantly. But when you are having that heated conversation, you need to take some time to stop and just listen. It's amazing to just listen. Growing up, I always loved to listen to people talk, and I felt that I was like, you know what? Because I'm so good at this, type of thing or version of myself who can actually listen to people, I should take that into consideration and actually listen to what people say instead of just react. But the only time that I actually don't give a fuck is when they're purely like assholes, and you can tell when that type of person really has no control over their anger, and it's not all about matching that level of anger that they have. If they can't control their anger, you need to be the one to stop and listen, relax, and control yourself. Be confident in what you're talking about. Be patient and be open. That's such a hard thing for people to do, is be open. And so, as I said, just remember that you are important. Your words and everything you talk about, everything you do has such an impact and makes such a big difference in this world. So it's all about that healing power that you have. And as I said before, and meditating and getting to know yourself a little bit better, becoming a little more in control with your emotions and your feelings is such an amazing way to fully understand how capable you are as a person. because you're so capable. You have so much that you can do. And I know I've seen so many people around me that have so much talent and so much skill. And I just want them to flourish and I want them to grow. And we all have so much skill and we can do so much with ourselves. We really can. You're your own limit in life. Nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody can actually control you. Nobody. I'm going to say this clearly and I'm going to repeat it constantly because I feel like everybody in the world needs to just say this in the back of their mind over and over again. No one has control over you, okay? You have control over your own life. You can do whatever you want to do. You can say what you want to say, but in a controlled and confident manner and in a good way. I'm not saying be a bitch, but there's so much about you. There's so much. And I just hope that you don't allow yourself to be limited because of the people around you. And when I say that, it means your friends, okay? It means coworkers. It means strangers. It means anyone online, literally anyone online. And your family, okay? Nobody, okay? Not your mom, not your dad, not your sister, not your brother. Nobody can tell you what to do, okay? You can do whatever the hell you want to do with your life. You have so much power. If we didn't take control and really get to know ourselves, Beyonce wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have fucking Prince. We wouldn't have frickin' Britney Spears. We wouldn't have anybody. We wouldn't have Gandhi. We wouldn't have fucking Picasso, Dali. We wouldn't have anybody. We wouldn't have freaking astronauts in space. We wouldn't have doctors. We wouldn't have teachers. We wouldn't have artists. Anything. We wouldn't have anything if we allowed people to choose what we do and take control of our lives. So, I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I am looking forward to seeing you guys again in the next one. And I love you. I hope you learned a lot. And I learned so much as well. So I'm so excited for the next episode. And more amazing things to come, especially people that you guys are going to meet. So thank you so much and have an amazing Eunoia day. I love you.